in the past, and they didn't play this consistently. This is a team that predominantly played man-to-man 95% of the time in the past. Now they have the ability to play man, but also, as Joey just said, they can play matchup, they can play zone, they can give you a lot to think about and try to confuse a quarterback. That's a huge weapon for a defensive coordinator. They also have 3 corners that are NFL corners. Right. Shaun Wade plays at that nickel. He's a future first-round top 10 pick. Jeffrey Okudah out there, Damon Arnett. These guys are top-notch players. So when you try to match up with Clemson, that's going to put you in 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. There are very few defenses that Clemson has faced that had the ability. Well, you might have one corner, or you might have a guy over here. Ohio State across the board has the athletes, which will be a great matchup with the length of Okudah, top 5 pick, top 10 pick, against those receivers from Clemson.
And Chase Young hasn't wrecked the game the last 2 games. No. So he's another guy that's going to come into this thing with an attitude. We talk about the attitudes of Ohio State not being number 1, Clemson being number 3, just eking by, getting to the playoff. And the attitudes of guys coming in, Chase Young has not wrecked the game from a statistics standpoint against Michigan and in the Big Ten championship game. He'll have an attitude.
And by the way, it's not just Chase Young. They've got other dudes up front on that defensive line, Hamilton and Cornell and Landers. There's a lot of you're going to double Chase Young. There's going to be a lot of other one-on-ones somewhere else. There's issues for Clemson.
If you're T. Higgins in that group, Justin Ross against Shaun Wade and Jeffrey Okudah, that's worth the price of admission alone.
You're going to call that game, I assume. I'm not trying to give away any schedule. I'm assuming you're calling that game. What's the one thing you're looking for in just a few seconds to know who has the advantage in terms of schematically, who's ahead of the other guy defensively or offensively, whether Clemson has the advantage or Ohio State does when you're watching early in that game?
I want to see how – I just can't wait to see Brent Venables against Ryan Day.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how Clemson, who's been great this year with how they confuse you, and Brent Venables is known nationally as the guy that gets the call in last second to try to adjust to the play. And Ohio State often, they'll look over the sideline and get the call. So it'll be a very kind of a cat and mouse game between Ryan Day and to answer your question, I don't know if you know until you actually see the game unfold because they both call plays at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. You ask anybody that's gone up against Brent Venables, they all say even Mac yesterday, we tried to huddle because we didn't want to tip our hand. He's notorious for getting the call in last based on seeing what you're in. He just has a quick sign, and they get the call.
So you guys are probably going to Arizona?
He's not aggressive enough for me.
Is that what you're telling us? You guys just might go to Arizona? What a surprise.
You're coming, aren't you? You got to golf.
Yeah.
All you do is golf.
Take me with you.
They golf in Atlanta.
Poor old Oklahoma. They're just sitting around because, they had to have 4 spots in the playoff. Poor old Lincoln Riley and Jalen Hurts and CeeDee Lamb. No shot at all.
Let's see if you give him a shot.
So what is it they have to do to pull the shock? We'll talk about it when we come back. Kansas State, here's what the Sooners have done. They've had some escapes, man. They had to stop it. That's a 42-41 it should be on Iowa State. They had to stop a two-point conversion at the end of the game. Sure did. He got a head in his hands.
And Brock played well those last few minutes. I was surprised.
He did, too. And Baylor, of course, they rallied from a 28-3 deficit. But Oklahoma fought through, persevered, made it to the playoff.
I think this whole situation is unique. I know it's happening to a unique person. I'm not your average Joe, kind of built for these type of situations.
Up in K-State, slow down the Sooners. Skylar Thompson, one-on-one, touchdown. Thompson at the goal line, he's in again. What a win for Kansas State as they take down number 5.
We've been through this road. Everybody in the world's going to say we're done. There's everything left out there for us, and we know that.
Purdy drops back after taking the snap, throws, and it is an interception, and the Sooners get the stop.
The Oklahoma Sooners, how will they perform on this big stage? Brewer from the pocket, fires for the end zone, touchdown! And Baylor is pouring it on against OU. Hurts rolls, looks for the end zone, touchdown! This was a 25-point lead. Brewer almost bobbled the snap, now fires, and this one is intercepted! A massive comeback victory for Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, 11-1, headed to the Big 12 championship.
The winner of our game should and will be in the college football playoffs.
Ramondre Stevenson, a touchdown for Oklahoma. They rush 4, drop everybody else, and they still get there. It's incomplete, and Oklahoma is the Big 12 champion again.
Big 12 champions again. Oklahoma making it into the playoff for the 3rd straight year, 4th time overall. But still without a victory. Let a big lead get away in the Rose Bowl against Georgia. Some of the other ones have been tougher. Clemson pulled away in the second half from them in their first appearance. Alabama sort of took care of them last year. Everybody expects Oklahoma has no chance again as they take on LSU. If the Sooners are going to pull the upset and knock off number one, how do they do it?
Well, they got 6 sacks against Baylor in the Big 12 championship game because they put pressure on the quarterback. Now, if you watch LSU play Georgia, Joe Burrow was standing in the pocket at times, 7, 8 seconds, just hanging out. They're going to have to pick and choose when they take their shots, and they're going to have to just guess right. And I don't know how they do that because there's so many weapons on the outside like Chase and Jefferson, and then you got Hilaire who can run the ball. So you don't want to leave your back end man-to-man coverage, but at the same time, you cannot let Joe Burrow stand in the pocket. So they have to get after him, get some sacks. And the other thing is they got to take care of the football. That was been another problem in that second half of the season for Oklahoma was turnovers. They have to take care of the ball, and then they might have a chance.
We moved the early signing day period this past year, right? We moved it
December's
up.
coming up.
Can we move the transfer portal up? They might have a chance if they move the transfer portal up a little bit. I mean, that might really help.
You're just not being nice.
So you're saying no chance.
Who do they need?
You're saying they don't have enough
Who do they
players.
need?
Is that what you're saying? Enough?
No, I don't. I mean, listen, I think their defense is good, but you mentioned Brock Purdy going against a good quarterback. This isn't a good quarterback. This is a great quarterback. This is the best quarterback in the playoff, and there is no weakness on this offense. And there's when you watch Oklahoma's defense, they are improved. They can rush the passer better. Their deficiency to me is at corner. That's not a good deficiency to have against LSU. They're not going to stop LSU. So if you want to ask me a chance, their prayer is to score and score and score and score and win a Big 12 shootout like you used to see with Mahomes back in the day, and maybe you got to get 70.
This is a day to celebrate. So we don't want to just say
okay.
You know what I'm saying, Joey? Like,
so,
it's a day.
I'm not giving this. I'm not giving the certificate of participation.
They're doing this. They're doing this. It's a day to be happy and celebrate. So this is not about Oklahoma has no chance. This is about recess. What do they have to do? They're not going to stop LSU's offense. They have to create turnovers. That's their only chance is if they're +3, +4 in the turnover margin because it's going to that defensive OU. Alex Grinch's done a great job.
He has.
Twists, they blitz, they get after you.
More effort.
But
playing faster.
The back end is going to be a great challenge.
You started with this as a day to celebrate, and then went downhill ever since.
But because of the improved defense, at least this is the most improved team they've taken to the the most complete team they've taken to the playoffs, right? Would you agree that? Like more than Kyler Murray or Baker?
But the offense isn't as explosive.
Their offense is
I felt a lot better about the previous team.
But here's the thing, and here's the thing about the offense. So you can say whatever you want. They're still averaging 8.2 yards a play. And that's best in college football. And that's without the O-lineman they lost to the NFL, and Hollywood Brown's gone. They lost the Heisman winner. Jalen Hurts has had to assume a much bigger role of this offense, especially running it. Because they don't have the dominant O-line anymore, they've had to go to more zone runs, more scrambled, more designed +1 advantage runs with Jalen Hurts. He's carried the ball 196 times.
And did squats
Think
after
about
it.
that.
Went into the weight room after.
He's 6'2", 225. He's had to shoulder the entire load. A year ago, it was Kyler Murray, and it was Brooks, and it was Sermon. This year, it's just Hurts.
No, what do they have to do to win?
Hurts has to go off.
Yeah, what are they?
He's got to be Superman, run the ball, be physical, probably have to carry it 25 times, and he's going to have to make big throws.
Yeah.
There you go. I think that's
CeeDee Lamb's going to have to win and go off, too.
As we mentioned earlier, because I love the stat, I think because it underscores the transformation of LSU on offense. 3 meetings that Jalen Hurts teams have had against LSU. LSU has averaged 25th annual Jimmy V Classic from Madison Square Garden. Louisville's #1 in the country. Take on Texas Tech at 7. That'll be followed by Indiana and UConn. Both games on ESPN and the ESPN app. Of course, you'll hear Jim Valvano's famous speech from the ESPYs. That's all part of the Jimmy V Classic, presented by Corona. Tuesday night from Madison Square Garden.
Blow up that Ohio State squad.
I know it. They're looking good, aren't they? Pretty good. You know, being #1 is not the way to go in the college football playoff. Alabama was #1 in the first college football playoff, and Ohio State on its way to the national title beat the Tide. The next year, Clemson was #1, so of course that meant they lost to Derrick Henry and Alabama. O.J. Howard with the big game. #1 Clemson with the opportunity to win the title, didn't do it. The next year they met again. This time Clemson was #2. Advantage Tigers and Deshaun Watson and Hunter Renfrow with that last-second touchdown. #2 Clemson knocked off another #1. No #1 would win the title. Clemson, Alabama, this time in a semifinal. Tigers number 1. Down goes Clemson. 24-6, Deron Payne scoring a touchdown. You saw Jalen Hurts, who will be against number 1 in this year's playoff, by the way. And then last year in the championship game, Alabama, Clemson again. Alabama number 1, Clemson in the blowout, 44-16. So